Hello, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Layer by Layer, the live special edition. That's right, broadcasting live from Adafruit South. So today we're going to take a look at starting the Raspberry Pi Zero PiGRRL project. I guess we'll call it the PiGRRL Micro. So I have here on my desk is a couple of the components that we're going to use in this project. The first main one is the display. This is the Adafruit PiTT 2.2 inch display, and in this tutorial we're going to be modeling this because this, the best thing to do is to start with any project is to model your components, and underneath this is the Raspberry Pi Zero. So this is the Raspberry Pi Zero, and to get it the thinnest as possible, we're actually going to seat this together like so, so that it's as thin as we can get it. To actually power this thing, we're going to use the Power Boost 500C, which is this guy here. And the actual battery is going to be the 500 milliamp, which I have here. And then I've already prepared a sort of mock-up of the buttons, the gamepad buttons for this. And it's this is the half size. This was the half size from a proto PCB. What I've done is I've already put the buttons in place, and I've cut it as short as I can. So this is the format that we're looking for, something like that. So it's about that big. There's my hand for scale. And I think the end goal is to make custom PCBs for the buttons, the gamepad buttons. But, using a promo proto for prototyping is really what you should do. So I thought I'd do that and try to figure out the best alignment and places for things. Obviously, the power boost and the battery have to go somewhere. They shouldn't maybe not go there, but underneath the Raspberry Pi. So it's going to be a little bit of a trial and error to see the best placement for this thing, because we do want to have access to the USB port here so that we can charge the battery. But I don't think we're going to have access to these guys here, which is the USB for power and the USB Go and the HDMI. So that's the goal here. So like I was saying, in this tutorial, we're just going to draw up in Autodesk Fusion. We're going to draw up the Adafruit PiTT 2.2. So let me switch over to that camera. So here we are in Fusion 360, and I've already gone ahead and modeled it just to make sure that I got everything worked out so that I can sort of do this as simple as possible. If we look down here, I only have a couple of different features that we've done, just a couple of extrudes, and really all the magic is happening in this sketch here. So this is all derived from one sketch, and the cool thing is that all the measurements are actually taken from, here we go, taken from the tech drawing. So if you go to any Adafruit component and you click on the sidebar here, it says Learn, you're going to see the guide for it. And when I open that up, if you go down to the downloads page of the guide, you get most of the components have these tech drawings. So this is helpful tremendously. You get all the dimensions of the PCB itself and some other components like the screen and the buttons, the placement of the buttons. So yeah, along the way I guess I'll be answering some questions and things, so yeah. And I'll probably gather them up because I'm just going to keep going. So save your questions for the end, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to get started here. So I started already with making a project. So this is the PiGRRL Zero project, but I'm just going to make a new design here. File new. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just modeling out sketching out the PCB. So I'm going to use our lovely rectangle tool. I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to select on this plane here so I can work from the top down. So I'm going to start from the center corner here and just draw out, and I'm just going to punch in some numbers like, I don't know, 50-50 millimeters, and then hit tab so I can lock those dimensions into place. So when I hit enter, I get these little sketch dimensions so I can modify these dimensions here. So let's go back to our tech drawings and find out how big is this really. So from here to here it is 65.02, so let's type that in, 65.02. And from here to here is 56.39, so I'll type that in, 6.39, enter. Okay, so there's our main PCB size. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do some construction lines so that I can figure out what's the center point of this guy. So to do that, I'm just going to use my line tool, and if you use your line tool, whenever you roll over another line, you'll get this little triangle, and that's telling me that that's the center point. So I'm going to click on that, and then click over here. And there's our center line. And then I'll do the same thing but for horizontal, like that. And then I'm going to turn these into construction lines, which will be used as reference points. Right now it's intersecting my my sketch here, so you can see I have 4 quadrants. So I'm just going to select these 2 lines. And I heard if you hit X on your keyboard, it's a shortcut for making construction lines. So I'll do that. And it did it. Cool. So to actually turn your line into construction, you can go here. It's in your sketch palette that automatically gets opened when you're editing sketches. So I hit OK. Okay, so I got that done. Next thing I'm going to do is do my mounting holes. So the mounting holes are circles, so I'm going to use the circle tool. And I'm going to just draw somewhere around here and then mess with the placement later. So I think they're 2.6 millimeters. 2.6, tab. Okay, hit enter. And then you can click and drag these numbers to so you can sort of see them a little bit better, so not in the way of all the features. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reference this drawing again, and it says that I need to have a distance of this to this. These 2 mounting holes have a distance of 57.91 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a mirror of this one mounting hole sketch 4 times, or 2 times rather. So to do that, I'm going to go to Sketch, go to Mirror. I'm going to click on that guy, which is my object, and then my mirror line is these construction lines that we made. So I can click on that, get a little preview of what the mirror is. I'll hit OK, and then I'll do another mirror horizontally. So I'll click on these 2 guys, select my mirror line as this horizontal line, and I'll hit OK. So now that I have them, you'll see that I can, when I move this guy, it's moving all 4 lines. So there's total degrees of freedom here. So I'm going to define a sketch saying these 2 guys have to have a specific dimension, spacing from each other. So I'm going to say, I'm going to click on the dimension tool and select these 2 center points. And then I'm going to tell it to be a certain size. I'm just going to hit enter for now, reference my drawing, 57.91. So let's type that in. Okay. And there they are. Okay, that's good. Now, the next one is for these 2 guys, this to that. And that's going to be 48.9. So go from here to here. 48.9. Hit enter. And now we have them defined. So because I have that mirror, I only have to do them twice, and I get 4 for the price of 2. So yeah. I'm just going to check my mic here. Okay, the mic looks okay. Guys, let me know how the audio is. If you hear any breaking or anything, let me know in the comments, and I'll panic. Okay, let's keep moving. So I got my mounting holes things. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the screen. So the screen is this guy here, the little dotted lines, and the outside of it is like the whole component, but this is just the screen cutout, which I think is what we want. So the dimension for that is 45.95. So let me make a new, let me close this so I can see all of our work area. So make the rectangle. I'm just going to draw it out somewhere over here. And then just do like 30 by 30. Alright, you see my sketch line, or the sketch dimensions are kind of overlaying. So remember, I can just click and drag them to get them out of the way so I can see them a little bit better. Okay. So what was it? 45.97 by 34.8. Okay, so those are locked in there. So now I have to figure out sort of the right spacing for it. And it tells us here in the tech drawing, there's a center line here, and it says from this edge to this edge is going to be about that distance. That's 27.8. And then from here to over here is going to be 33.4. So I need to figure out what the center lines are for this screen, for the display. So to do that, like we did before for the PCB, I'm just going to grab my line tool, and I'm just going to roll over this guy until it gives me that icon. So there it is. So I'll just click down here and do the same horizontally. Okay, so I'll hit escape, and then I'll select these 2, and then I'll hit X for my shortcut key thing. Alright, so now I can start laying out a dimension of spacing. So I'll say this center line here to this guy here. I'll hit enter for now and reference my thing. 27.18, pretty close. Alright, so that's in the spot. And then the center of this guy with this guy will be over here. I'll hit enter for now, reference it again, 33.4. Alright, so you can see it's not, the screen isn't exactly in the center. So that's why we went ahead and did these center lines for the, particular to the screen, and then figured out our distances. So okay. So that's it for the screen. The next thing we need to do is the buttons, which are going to be down over here. So the buttons already know that they're 6mm by 6mm, so that's why it's not listed here. So you might want to measure some components sometimes. But let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use the rectangle tool, but I'm going to change the option to use the center rectangle. And what that lets me do is that lets me draw out a rectangle through the center point. So wherever I lay this down, I can draw out, and it'll have some constraints set to it already for me. So I'm going to say 6 by 6. Alright, hit enter. Now I have that. So I have a couple things here. So these two distances, this center point to that edge is going to be 3.56. So that's easy to do. I'll hit D on my keyboard. From here to here, 3.56. Okay. And then I need to figure out this distance here, which is this guy, 12.7. From here to here, 12.7. Let's do that. Okay, so there's our first button. Now, if I look at these three buttons, these three here, I can see that they have the same distance, but this one here has a different distance. What I'm going to do is I'm actually try to make my work a little bit faster by using a rectangular pattern tool to make a duplicate of these three. So to do that, I'll go up here to the rectangular, up to sketch menu, and then click on rectangular pattern. And then it's like, well, what's your objects? All right, well, I have 4 lines, so I'll pick the 4 lines. And then I'm going to drag this out this way, because that's the direction that I want to go in. I want 3 of them, yes, but the distance type, I'm going to change the spacing, because I have a specific spacing distance. And since I'm going that way, it's saying, well, that's a negative distance. Well, that's okay. It's going to be 12.7, like we did for the first button. So then I'll hit OK. And then there's our 3 buttons, a little bit easier. So the next button is going to be somewhere over here. So let's start working on that. So I'll click on the rectangle tool, do the center rectangle again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll over this guy here. And it's going to say there's your center point. If I start dragging out, you can see this little blue dotted line. That's just like a guide to let me know you're in the center of that guy. So I'm going to click somewhere there like that and then put 6 by 6. Okay. So now I know I'm centered with that, so I don't have to do sketch dimension from this edge to that edge, so I'm good there. But now I don't have a center over here because I didn't copy it. So what I could do is I guess I could just make another center point over here like this, like we did before for the PCB and the screen. Give it a second there. Just like we did before. Waiting, and then I'll select the 2, and then hit D. Not D, X. Gotta get used to my shortcut. So that's just making those little dotted lines are reference construction points, or construction lines. So now I can actually use those to make a dimension, sketch dimension. So here to here, that's going to be, what was it, like 13.7? Something like that. Let's reference the thing. 13.97. Missing a 9 in front of the 7. Okay. Okie dokie. It's looking good. Those are our buttons. Yay. You know what? I need to make these circle things, because if you look at our buttons, they have little actuators. So I need to draw those out. And to do that, I need a center point for this guy. So I'm gonna have to do that again, but for this one. So what I should have did in the pattern was carry over these construction points, the construction lines. So now I have to like remake them. So there's a little tip for you. should have carried those over. Okay, no problem. I could just redraw them. And wait a second. It takes a minute for those. I'm not sure why. I think it's because it's a pattern. So X. Okay, so now I got those. So I can draw out these guys here. This is going to be, I believe, 3 millimeters. And then over here, I'm just hitting C on my keyboard to make the circle tool. C for circle. Whoops, that's the wrong dimension. Put 3. And over here, 3. And then the last one over here. All right, so that's set. So I think that's, you know what we need to do? We need to do a little header here. And we're not gonna actually draw out the header like I was saying in the beginning, that we're not gonna use a header for the display itself, but I'd like to have a reference point of the header. So that's not listed out here for us, but it is listed in this guy. This guy is the Raspberry Pi Zero tech drawings that you can find on their GitHub, on the Pi's GitHub, drawn by Mike Stimson. Very nice drawing. And it tells me the distances and stuff, but it doesn't tell me the actual the X and Y for the actual header. But that's okay. I've already measured it out. And this guy, I'm just gonna reference this guy here. It's going to be 50.6 by 5, 50.62. Let's draw that out. I'm just going to draw it somewhere and then, you know, sketch dimension it later. So where's that? 5 by 50.6. And 5. Okay, so there we go. So the distance from this edge to this edge is going to be 2. Let's draw this out over here. So it's out of our way. And then from this guy to this guy is going to be, I forget. I think it's like 7. Let's reference our drawing again. It is 7.2. Pretty close. 7.2. All right. So that's pretty much it for the. I'm going to hit stop sketch, and now we have our sketch, and we're going to derive all of our extrudes from this one sketch. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to extrude this out for the PCB. So I'll hit E on my keyboard, it's a shortcut, and then just click and drag to make a marquee selection. And the PCB is 1.6 millimeters. And you see it's drawing up. I'm actually going to put negative so that it draws down, so that when I extrude the buttons and stuff, I'll be already flush with the surface of the PCB. I hit OK. My sketch disappeared. That's fine. It just hid it for me. It's just the default behavior. And you can see that instead of extruding these holes out, I'm just going to double click on the extrude down here where my parametric timeline is. It's a little timeline that saves all my features that I'm making. So I'm going to hold down the option or the command key, and then just deselect these circles. So come down here, select that, and then that one, and then hit OK. So now I have that. I'll go ahead and do my fillets here too, why not? Just a quick way to do it. I'll hit F as the key command, and then drag that way. I think hold down Shift. Let's do it this way like that. Okay, and then I think it's 3 millimeters for the radius. Hit OK, and there's our lovely fillets. Oh, I missed 2. Let's double click on that. Double click on that, and then I'll just hold down Option to add these line edges as to the fillet feature. Home. Okay, now I'm going to extrude the screen. Hit E on my keyboard and click on that space there. I think it's 3. I think. I'm not sure. Let me hit it. Let me stop this sketch and just reference what it is. I use my calipers to determine this one, so I'm just using this one as a reference. So it's actually 4.5. So I'll double click on that extrude and just modify it to 4.5. Not a problem. The buttons, let's do the buttons next. Hit E on my keyboard and then select all the squares, including the actuator circles. And then export, make it, I think it's 2 point something, 2.2 maybe. I'm just gonna keep jumping up and down over here. To find out what the distance of something, you can just click on the edge and hit I, and that'll tell you measure. It is 2.2, okay, cool. And then this guy here, so if I wanted to find out what the distance between these two is, I could hit I, select that, those two, and it'll tell me it's 1.6. So okay, so hit E on my keyboard, select these guys, little circles. Oops, I forgot to hit E. I gotta select them again. See how I can't select it here? I just gotta hide the body because I'm extruding now. So I'll select these actuators, and it was 2.2 plus 1.6, and then I'm going to bring back the body, and then you see how it changed the operation? It likes to do that by default, so I'm just going to change it back to join, and then hit OK. And you know what, folks, that's pretty much it. I'm going to hide the sketch now, and we have our component. Yay, there's our screen. It's got our buttons. We can figure out the clearances when we're drawing out our other actuators for the case. I got our mounting holes, the screen, and I have a reference point for the headers when we line it up with the Pi. So at this point I would save it out and all that good stuff, but I already have it saved out, so really good. Okay, so that's about it, guys. That's all I wanted to cover this week's Layer by Layer. I'm starting on the PiGRRL project. So, yeah. If you guys have any questions and stuff, drop them in the comments, and I will just go through some of them now, I guess. What are we making? Yep, the Raspberry PiGRRL Zero. I guess the audio sounds fine. Okay. Do I do these videos often? Yeah, I do these once a week. And you've been fighting with your Replicator 2 all day. Yeah, yeah, drop down your specific problems with the Replicator 2, and we'll see if we can answer those for the 3D Hangout. We have a show every Thursday at 3 p.m. It's called 3D Hangouts. It's on this Adafruit channel on YouTube. And yeah, sorry, it's ending, oh no. So yeah, this was the first live streaming thing. So I hope everything went well. I had fun doing it. There's a little bit to set up, but yeah, I think that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys watching and commenting and all that good stuff. But yeah, until next week, folks, remember to keep on a catting. Bye, guys.